Picture this. You walk into a room full of people, and within minutes you feel completely drained, even though no one has said a word to you. It's as if your energy has been slowly siphoned away, leaving you tired, mentally exhausted, and wondering how it happened. Energy, it turns out, isn't just about physical exertion. It's about who you surround yourself with, what you give your attention to, and how you protect your inner peace. What if I told you that the silent battle for your energy is happening every single day, and most of us don't even realize it? There are ways to defend yourself, ways to keep your inner strength intact, no matter how much chaos surrounds you. Energy flows where attention goes. Are you spending yours wisely? Stick around, because I'm about to reveal 7 methods to guard your energy and reclaim control of your life. If you're ready to start that journey, make sure to hit the like button, subscribe, and let's dive into protecting what matters most, your energy. In the realm of personal energy, the first rule is to recognize the emotional vampires. These are not creatures of myth, but rather individuals you encounter daily who have the uncanny ability to drain your vitality. Identifying them isn't just about understanding who they are, but more importantly, understanding how they make you feel. Imagine sitting at a cafe with a friend who constantly complains about every aspect of their life. As they speak, you might notice a heaviness settling over you, a cloud that darkens as the conversation drags on. Your head begins to ache, your enthusiasm wanes, and you feel your energy seeping away as if through an invisible straw. This is no accident. Emotional vampires thrive on the energy of others, often because they lack the resources to renew their own. Why do we allow these energy drainers into our lives? Often, it's because we fail to set boundaries based on emotional reactions rather than rational decisions. Stoic philosophy teaches us to observe our impressions and withhold assent until we've evaluated their truth. By practicing this, we learn to respond, not react. Here's a narrative twist to consider. What if you could see this energy transfer visually as a vibrant color draining from you and into them? Each complaint, each negative expression, pulls more vivid color away, leaving you pale and exhausted. Now imagine you hold a shield, a glowing barrier made of your will and understanding of Stoic detachment. This shield doesn't just block the negativity, it helps you see the situation with clarity and from a distance, preserving your color, your energy. Implementing this first method involves recognizing the emotional states that drain you and visualizing a mental barrier that protects you. This barrier is strengthened by your awareness and your decision to engage with these individuals on your terms, not theirs. It's about taking proactive control of your interactions, ensuring that your energy remains your own. This narrative of energy as a visible force and your power as a shield can transform how you manage relationships, turning potentially draining encounters into opportunities for practicing emotional resilience and self-mastery. Lesson 2. Master the art of silence. Picture yourself in the midst of a heated conversation where words fly fast, emotions flare, and logic often seems to be the first casualty. We've all been there, debates or arguments that leave you feeling depleted, not because of the content, but because of the sheer emotional weight of it. Now imagine if, instead of participating, you took a different approach: silence. Silence is not a retreat. It's not about giving up ground or conceding. Silence, when wielded correctly, is a weapon of mastery. When others expect you to engage, to argue, or to get drawn into their emotional spiral, silence leaves them with nothing to grab onto. It's an act of power, not passivity. Let's take a different angle with this. Consider the moments where silence itself feels louder than words. Think of a chess game between two masters. Not a single word is spoken, but the silence is heavy with thought, strategy, and anticipation. In that silence, each player calculates their next move with precision, aware that any rushed action can cost them the game. The silence is not absence, it's presence, it's intention. The next time someone seeks to drain your energy through conflict, remember that silence is often the most strategic move. By withholding words, you refuse to fuel the fire they're trying to ignite. You're not playing their game, and in that moment, you've taken control. And here's the tricky part. Your silence forces them to reflect on their own actions. They're left with themselves, and often that's where the real lesson happens. This kind of silence isn't easy to cultivate. It requires patience and, paradoxically, strength. When people expect a reaction and you give them none, you change the entire dynamic. Your refusal to engage becomes the loudest response in the room. It turns their energy inward while yours remains intact, unspent. There's also an ancient philosophical twist here. In many traditions, silence was revered as the highest form of wisdom. The great sages and thinkers knew that words often cloud truth, while silence allows truth to rise to the surface. In moments of chaos, the one who remains silent often sees the clearest. You're not withholding words to avoid confrontation. You're doing so to see the bigger picture, to rise above the fray and keep your energy grounded, solid, and unshakable. In mastering silence, you're mastering yourself. You're no longer a puppet pulled by the strings of others' emotions. Instead, you stand as the calm center in the storm. This silence isn't empty. It's full of thought, observation, and power. It's the chess master making a move without saying a word. Your opponent is left wondering what comes next, and all the while, you've preserved your energy and your peace. In this way, silence becomes not just a strategy, but a practice of self-protection and empowerment. Lesson 3. The subtle power of saying no. Imagine this scenario. You're in the middle of a busy day, juggling tasks, chasing deadlines, and suddenly a friend asks for a favor. It's small, seemingly innocent, a request you could technically squeeze into your already packed schedule. So without thinking, you agree. A few days later, it happens again. This time, the favor is bigger, the time commitment longer, but you find yourself saying yes once more, feeling a little obligated. Sound familiar? Now picture what happens in the background. Each of these small yeses chips away at your energy, your time, your peace of mind. And yet, many of us struggle to recognize the cost of this seemingly simple act of generosity. The trick isn't in learning to say yes more, but rather in mastering the art of no. Here's the catch. Saying no is not about being selfish. It's about drawing boundaries that protect your most valuable resource, your energy. The energy drained from constantly overcommitting often goes unnoticed until it's too late, leaving you feeling depleted, unmotivated, or even resentful. To fully grasp the subtle power of saying no, let's take a walk through an ancient story. Imagine a warrior, known for his wisdom as much as his strength, who lives by a strict code of balance. Every day, people from neighboring villages come to him with requests, help with disputes, protection, guidance. He helps them, but as his fame grows, the requests multiply. Soon, his time is no longer his own. His energy, once boundless, becomes thinly spread, and he feels the weight of his obligations like armor too heavy to bear. The warrior, wise as he is, realizes he must change something. He begins saying no to all but the most essential requests. And what happens? He regains his strength, his focus, and his ability to truly help where it matters most. The lesson here is that saying no is not a sign of weakness or unwillingness. It's a conscious decision to preserve your energy for what truly matters. It's about understanding that not every request deserves your time, and that your own priorities are as important, if not more important, than the needs of others. Saying no is a form of power because it allows you to control how and where your energy flows. But here's where it gets tricky. Often, the pressure to say yes doesn't come from others. It comes from within. It's the internal dialogue that convinces us that we must be available to everyone, that we must please, that we must avoid disappointing others at all costs. But the truth, the cost of constantly saying yes is far greater than the discomfort of saying no. In ancient philosophy, this power of no was considered one of the highest forms of discipline. It requires an understanding of yourself, of your limits, your goals, and your energy reserves. It's easy to give in to the expectations of others, but it's far harder to protect your time and focus. By saying no to what drains you, you're actually saying yes to what empowers you. You're saying yes to your own priorities, your well-being, and ultimately, your peace. So the next time someone makes a request of you, pause, reflect, ask yourself, is this worth my energy? If the answer is no, then remember the warrior's wisdom. The true strength lies not in overextending yourself, but in having the courage to say no when it truly matters. In doing so, you keep your power intact, your energy focused, and your spirit undisturbed. Lesson 4. The danger of emotional vampires. Picture this, you're sitting with a friend, someone who always has a crisis to unload. They speak for hours, pouring out their problems, frustrations, and dramas, while you sit and listen. You nod, offer advice, or even sympathize, but something strange happens. The more you listen, the more drained you feel. By the end of the conversation, it's like your emotional energy has been siphoned off, leaving you exhausted and empty. You've just encountered an emotional vampire, someone who feeds on your empathy, your attention, and your energy, leaving nothing in return. These people aren't always toxic in the traditional sense. In fact, they can often seem harmless, even well-meaning, but their constant need for emotional validation or crisis resolution slowly drains you, bit by bit. Let's step back into a different world for a moment. Ancient Greece, where a wise philosopher sits in the market square. Every day, people come to him with their problems, asking for wisdom, solutions, or simply someone to vent to. The philosopher listens, but he doesn't absorb their chaos. He listens with detachment, offering only what is necessary, never allowing himself to be pulled into their emotional whirlwinds. Why? Because he knows that to let their storms become his own would be to lose his inner peace. Now, let's flip the perspective. You might think that being a good friend, a caring person, means always being available to listen, to support, to take on others' burdens. But here's the tricky part. While it's noble to offer help, there's a fine line between support and sacrifice. The moment you start sacrificing your emotional well-being for someone else's endless crises, you're not being kind, you're being drained. Emotional vampires often don't realize what they're doing. They're not malicious. They're simply lost in their own worlds, unaware of the toll they take on those around them. But the trick to dealing with them isn't in shutting them out entirely. It's in setting boundaries without guilt. This brings us to an ancient teaching. The mind that is at peace is a fortress, impenetrable by external forces. What does this mean in today's context? It means that you have the power to listen, to care, but you must protect your own emotional fortress. You can't allow someone else's storms to tear down your walls. But how do you do this? By learning to recognize when you're being pulled into someone else's emotional chaos. By acknowledging the toll it takes and stepping back before it consumes you. The next time you're in one of those draining conversations, notice your own energy levels. Are you getting pulled into their drama? Are you losing focus, feeling tired or even frustrated? That's your signal. That's when you need to quietly withdraw. Not in a way that abandons the person, but in a way that protects your peace. Imagine yourself as that ancient philosopher, calm, centered, and untouchable by the emotional storms around you. You listen, you care, but you do not let yourself be drained. The trick isn't in avoiding people altogether, but in mastering the art of emotional distance. By doing this, you maintain your inner strength, and in turn, you're able to offer real help without losing yourself in the process. So the next time you find yourself face to face with an emotional vampire, remember, your energy is not an endless resource. You have the power to help, but only if you guard your own emotional reserves first. In this way, you protect your peace, your strength, and your ability to navigate the world without being consumed by the emotional storms of others. Lesson 5. The subtlety of silent saboteurs. Imagine being surrounded by a group of friends, colleagues, or even family. On the surface, everything seems fine. The conversations are light, the jokes are flowing, and the atmosphere appears relaxed. But underneath, there's a current of negativity that seeps into the cracks of every interaction. It's not loud or obvious. It's subtle. Comments that seem harmless, but leave you doubting yourself. Suggestions that slowly push you in directions you never intended to go. These are the silent saboteurs, people who, often unintentionally, drain your energy without you even realizing it. Let's flip back to a different story. Picture a wise man walking through the streets of an ancient city. He's observant, calm, and aware. He watches as the crowd moves around him. Some people are in a rush, some are laughing, and others are locked in serious conversation. But he doesn't just see the people, he feels the undercurrents. He notices the person laughing a little too loudly to mask their insecurity. He sees the man offering advice, not out of kindness, but out of a need to control. And he knows that true wisdom lies in discerning these hidden motivations, not in taking them at face value. In today's world, these silent saboteurs are everywhere. They're the ones who constantly offer helpful criticism, but never seem to celebrate your successes. They're the ones who quietly sow seeds of doubt in your plans, making you second-guess your decisions. They might not even realize they're doing it, but their subtle negativity eats away at your confidence, your energy, and your will to pursue your own path. Here's where the lesson gets tricky. You may not notice these energy drainers at first. In fact, you might even think they're being supportive. The tricky part is that their sabotage isn't always intentional. It's often a reflection of their own fears, insecurities, and limitations. But their subtle, energy-sapping ways can still derail you if you're not careful. Let's go back to the ancient city. The wise man walking through the streets doesn't stop to argue or explain himself to those who try to pull him into their own fears. He doesn't feel the need to justify his actions or decisions to people who don't understand his path. Why? Because he knows that engaging with their doubts, their subtle sabotage, will only drain him. Instead, he quietly acknowledges their presence and moves forward on his journey, undeterred and undistracted. In the same way, you must learn to recognize the silent saboteurs in your life. They might not always be easy to spot because their tactics aren't overt. It could be a friend who constantly makes you feel like you're not good enough, or a colleague who subtly questions every move you make. The trick is to tune into how you feel after interacting with them. Do you feel energized, motivated, and confident? Or do you feel drained, uncertain, and hesitant? If it's the latter, you've likely encountered a silent saboteur. So, how do you deal with them? By mastering the art of silent strength. Just like the wise man in the ancient city, you don't need to engage, argue, or explain yourself. You simply need to recognize their subtle sabotage for what it is, a reflection of their own limitations, not yours. You listen, but you don't absorb their negativity. You nod, but you don't let their doubts become your own. The power lies in detachment. By remaining centered and focused on your own path, you become impervious to the quiet whispers of doubt that others try to plant in your mind. And once you've mastered this, you'll find that the silent saboteurs no longer have any hold on you. Their power lies in their subtlety, but your strength lies in your ability to see through it and continue forward, undeterred. In the end, the key to protecting your energy is in recognizing when others are subtly draining it and in choosing not to engage. By doing this, you preserve your strength, your focus, and your ability to move through life with clarity and confidence, untouched by the silent sabotage of those around you. Lesson 6. The illusion of overinvestment. When helping becomes a trap, let me take you on a journey. Imagine you're walking through a dense forest, armed with nothing but your good intentions and a desire to help someone you care about. The path seems clear at first. Sunlight trickles through the trees and the air is fresh. But as you move deeper into the woods, something odd happens. The person you're helping doesn't follow along. Instead, they keep getting lost, stuck in the same spot. You call out to them, offer your hand and guide them out, but no matter how many times you show them the way, they end up lost again, leaving you retracing your steps repeatedly. This is what over-investing in someone else's problems feels like. It's a loop. You pour your energy into guiding them, believing they'll eventually find their own way. But what if they're not lost? What if instead they're choosing to stay where they are, content with your constant help, while never taking responsibility for their own journey? This brings us to a hidden danger many of us overlook: helping someone beyond the point of no return. What's tricky about this lesson is that it feels counterintuitive. Doesn't helping someone unconditionally make you a good person? Doesn't it show your strength? The reality is much more complex. Now picture an ancient philosopher sitting on a rock by the side of a road, observing travelers passing by. One traveler is limping, clearly struggling. The philosopher offers him advice, but instead of continuing on his path, the traveler keeps returning, asking for more help, more directions. Soon, the traveler is walking in circles, coming back to the philosopher again and again. At some point, the philosopher realizes that the traveler isn't actually looking for a way forward. He's looking for someone to take the journey for him. This is the trap of overinvestment. You think you're helping, but what you're really doing is enabling someone to stay stuck. It feels noble at first, like a testament to your generosity and patience. But over time, it becomes a drain, a slow siphoning of your energy. The tricky part is recognizing when your help is no longer helping, but is instead enabling someone else's dependence on you. But why do we fall into this trap? It's partly because we see potential in others. We believe, maybe a little too optimistically, that if we just give more of ourselves, they'll eventually rise to the occasion. It feels good to be needed, and it feels purposeful to guide someone through their struggles. However, just as the philosopher couldn't walk the path for the traveler, we can't solve someone else's problems for them. There comes a time when your help is no longer a lifeline, but a chain that binds you to their stagnation. Here's where the story twists. To truly help someone, sometimes you have to stop. You have to step back and allow them the space to find their own strength, their own solutions. You have to be willing to let them fail, stumble, and even get lost for a while. Because in doing so, they learn to navigate life on their own terms. It's not a withdrawal of kindness. It's a deeper, wiser form of support. The next time you find yourself pouring all your energy into helping someone who keeps circling back to the same problems, ask yourself this: are you empowering them to move forward, or are you simply keeping them comfortable in their loop? Are you truly helping, or are you holding both of you back? Just like the wise philosopher, you need to know when to let go. Not because you don't care, but because real growth doesn't come from constant rescue. It comes from allowing others to take responsibility for their own journey. So as you reflect on your relationships and where you invest your energy, remember this: helping is noble, but over-investing becomes a trap for both you and the person you're trying to save. By recognizing when to step back, you protect your own energy and empower others to find their own strength. The tricky part is learning to let go without feeling guilty. But once you master this, you'll unlock a deeper, more powerful way of supporting those around you. Lesson 7. The phantom responsibility, when guilt becomes the puppet master. Let me take you back to a small, dimly lit room where a puppet master pulls the strings of a marionette. The puppet dances and moves, but it has no say in its direction. It simply follows the master's whims. Now imagine you're the puppet, and the strings pulling you aren't held by some external force but by an invisible hand. Guilt, the tricky part. The puppet master isn't always someone else. Sometimes it's you. Have you ever found yourself saying yes to things that weigh you down simply because you felt you had to? That's guilt pulling the strings. You feel an unspoken duty to keep helping others, even when your energy is depleted, even when your own life is falling into chaos. It feels noble, but what's really happening is you're being controlled, not by someone else, but by an illusion of responsibility you've created for yourself. In ancient times, philosophers knew the power of detachment, not just from material things, but from the unnecessary burdens we place on our own shoulders. Picture a wise sage walking through a bustling marketplace, surrounded by people calling out for his help, advice, and guidance. But instead of bending to every request, the sage smiles and continues on his way, unbothered. He knows something most of us forget. You are not responsible for fixing everyone else's problems. Here's where the trick comes in. You think you're helping out of love or duty, but deep down, guilt might be driving your actions. You believe that if you don't step in, if you don't offer your energy, then you're somehow failing those around you. It's a common trap, especially for those of us who pride ourselves on being dependable, but the reality is that not every burden is ours to carry. Now let's shift the story a bit. Imagine you're walking through a garden, and in this garden, every flower represents a different person in your life. Some flowers are wilting, others are thriving, but you feel a need to water all of them, even the ones that belong to other people. It's exhausting. You keep running back and forth, trying to keep every flower alive. But here's the twist. Some of these flowers aren't meant to be saved by you. Some of them will only bloom when their rightful caretaker takes charge. The more energy you spend watering everyone's garden, the less you have left for your own. This is where many people fall into a trap. We think by overextending ourselves, we're being kind, generous, or fulfilling some higher moral duty. But the truth is, when you give too much, especially from a place of guilt, you end up drained, resentful, and disconnected from your own path. The real lesson here isn't about how much you give. It's about knowing when to stop. Just because someone expects something from you doesn't mean you're obligated to deliver. It's a tricky lesson to absorb, because society often teaches us that being selfless is the ultimate virtue. But ancient wisdom tells us something deeper. Balance is key. The sage in the marketplace knew that by preserving his own energy, he could serve better when the time was truly right. He wasn't ignoring others out of selfishness. He was honoring the boundaries of what he could offer without losing himself. The next time guilt pulls your strings, stop and ask yourself, is this truly my responsibility? Am I acting out of genuine care? Or am I allowing guilt to dictate my actions? The moment you start questioning the puppet strings, you begin to take back control. You no longer dance to the tune of others' expectations or your own misplaced sense of duty. Remember the garden. There are flowers you can water and others you must leave for someone else. When you embrace that not every struggle is yours to solve, you reclaim your energy and, more importantly, your freedom. So take a deep breath, cut the strings of guilt and walk your own path. The world will still turn and others will still find their way, just as you must find yours. Lesson 8. The mirror of drama, reflecting chaos or deflecting it. Imagine walking through a hall of mirrors in a carnival. Every reflection distorts your appearance. Some stretch you taller, others widen your face, and a few make you unrecognizable. The chaos is dizzying, but you understand it's not real. Now imagine the same sensation happening not in a carnival, but in your day-to-day life. People around you bring drama, emotional chaos, and before you know it, their distortions start affecting your inner peace. The trick is, do you stand there reflecting their chaos, or do you step away from the mirror altogether? Drama thrives on reaction, like a fire feeds on oxygen. The more you engage, the more it grows, until suddenly the flames are consuming your energy. It often starts subtly, someone complaining, creating conflict, or constantly dragging you into their personal storms. You think you're helping by offering advice, by trying to fix their issues, but what's really happening is you're being drawn into their distorted reflection of reality. Now let me tell you a story of a silent warrior. This warrior walks through life like the eye of a storm, calm, centered, and unaffected by the chaos swirling around. No matter how much drama rages nearby, he remains still, refusing to be pulled into it. He knows that by staying detached, he keeps his power intact. Every time he's tempted to engage, he pauses, remembering one truth. Not every battle is mine to fight. This is where most of us get tricked. We think that by engaging in someone else's emotional chaos, we're helping or being compassionate. But there's a deeper truth here. Sometimes the greatest help you can offer is your silence, your refusal to mirror back the drama. Just because someone brings negativity into your space doesn't mean you have to reflect it back. Think about it. If you're surrounded by mirrors reflecting anger, frustration, and fear, it's easy to believe that's all there is. But if you remove yourself from that environment, what do you see? Clarity, peace, and a true reflection of yourself. Here's the twist. You don't need to fix or change the people around you. Instead, you need to control how much of their reflection you let into your mind. In ancient times, warriors were taught that the first battle they must win is the one within themselves. External enemies, whether in battle or in everyday interactions, are only reflections of internal struggles. If someone brings chaos to your life, ask yourself, why am I letting their chaos into my mind? The answer might surprise you. The truth is, when you step into other people's drama, you become a mirror reflecting their distortions. But when you step away, you become like the silent warrior, unmoved by the noise, unaffected by the storm. The key to guarding your energy is learning how to recognize when drama is being used to pull you in, to make you a part of someone else's narrative. Your job is not to fix the reflection, but to protect your own peace. Picture this. You're walking through a forest, surrounded by trees swaying in a storm. The wind howls, branches snap, and leaves whirl through the air. But in the center of the forest, there's a still pond. Despite the chaos around it, the water remains calm, undisturbed. You're that pond. The storm is the drama surrounding you, and as long as you don't let the wind disturb your surface, you maintain your inner stillness. The trick lies in recognizing that no one can pull you into their drama without your consent. It's tempting to think we must intervene, that somehow it's our responsibility to calm the storm. But often, the best way to deal with drama is to observe it from a distance without absorbing it. Just as the pond reflects the sky without being altered by it, you can witness the chaos without becoming part of it. So next time drama comes knocking at your door, remember, you're not a mirror to reflect it back. You are the still pond, the silent warrior who understands that true strength lies in maintaining your peace, no matter how loud the storm may roar. And in that silence, you find not only your own clarity, but also the power to rise above the noise. As we bring this journey to a close, think back to where we started. Remember the person standing at the edge, questioning the next step. Now, you've traveled far beyond that point, not just physically, but mentally, emotionally. The cliff isn't what defines you, but how you choose to move forward does. The power to shift your life, to master your mind, is in your hands. What will you do next? The world won't change for you. You must change first. And that begins with a single step. What's stopping you? If this has sparked something within you, don't let it fade. Take action today, no matter how small. Comment below with your thoughts and make sure to hit that like button. And here's the question to leave you with. What's the one thing you've been avoiding that's holding you back? If you're ready to take the next step, subscribe and continue the journey. This is only the beginning.